you've had a fantastic journey, not just academically, but your career so far. And I know for sure that our students would love to hear about what you would tell yourself as a high school student when you were researching universities. What made and how did you come to the realization that accounting and finance was for you and Waterloo was the right fit?
Yeah, I think my situation was a bit unique in high school because I was actually a science student. So I really wanted to go in the field of healthcare and go into medicine. But really, the accounting and finance program drew me a lot because of the co-op aspect. And I wanted to just try something new. I knew, business was really foundational in terms of even in the field of medicine, right? And so I thought, starting in accounting finance, I could get to medicine, but, I ended up in a very different path and a very different program. And looking back, I don't regret it at all. I think that's one of the biggest advice I'd give is that, life takes many different twists and turns. And it's, you might take very unexpected turns, but those turns all kind of make your journey unique, and you'll always end up to a place where you want to be as long as you have a goal in mind and you're focused. In high school, don't do the research in your program, visit the campus, get a feel of what the lecture halls are like. The environment is very important. I think that is sometimes underlooked in terms of being in the right environment that you feel comfortable in to study in. And so when I stepped foot on the Waterloo campus, it was great. The SAF building, I think at the time was a newer building, and it still looks amazing today. So that really drew me into it. And I think talking to students in the actual program makes a difference. The high school I went to, a lot of the students was in the AFM program, and so being able to talk to them, getting a feel for what they thought the coursework was like, and ultimately looking at the alumni of that school and where they ended up, kind of helps you inform your decision. It's a tough decision in high school, but it's one where, it's a decision you make, and it's not the be all or end all. Again, I wanted to go into medicine, took a huge turn away from that, and now in the field of finance, and never looked back since.
Mm-hmm. And looking like you absolutely love what you're doing. So that's fantastic. And awesome that you had the flexibility and the foresight to be open-minded enough to try something different and to find your passion where you originally thought it was going to be in science and in the health field. Your passion obviously ended up being more business.
Yeah.
So in terms of, and that's fantastic advice to provide to high school students. Let's focus a little bit on tips and advice for our current students and for aspiring professionals. What advice would you give them as they look to navigating their current university academic careers and working towards careers in finance?
Yeah, I think, don't be afraid to try different things. Don't be afraid to raise your hand for new opportunities. As a young professional, the best way to learn is to be a sponge, right? It's to absorb everything around you. And to do that, you really need to have an open mind, to try new things, to get that opportunity, because, you might try one thing and then realize it's not for you, but the fact that you realized what you tried wasn't for you is already a win, because you know what you don't want to do, right? And so I think, don't be afraid to try new things. I think in the work environment, don't be afraid to raise your hand. Oftentimes as, a young professional, you're still developing your voice at the table. It could be an intimidating environment, but what I'll say is a lot of the professionals in this world really want to hear what you have to bring to the table. They want to hear your views and perspectives. And so being able to not be afraid to kind of develop your voice and show your opinions and analysis based on the analysis you've conducted is very important too. And so another point is also, being able to be in a role where you get opportunities to mentor others as well. I think to be successful in your career and, become a leader one day, a senior leader, you really need to know how to manage people, meaning, being a people's person, having people skills, team building, and relationship building. And so throughout school, there's many opportunities to do that, whether it's through the student investment fund that I was involved in, you know, starting off as a junior and being mentored by a lot of the seniors as well as the faculty members, and then eventually leading the fund as the CIO, being able to kind of mentor the junior students and onboard them was, you know, really instrumental in terms of how I built out some of those leadership skills, which I think, you know, are very important in the industry.
Yeah, fantastic sound advice, and all kind of almost common sense, but I think the ultimate lesson is, like you said, take advantage of the opportunities that come your way, and don't be afraid to ask for opportunities. So thank you so much again, Mitchell, for taking the time out of your very busy day to chat with me and to connect. I loved hearing about your academic and your career journey to date, and I look forward to seeing you again, maybe in a year, maybe in 3-5 years, and speaking with you as potentially the next CIO of an organization. So thank you.
Thank you.